I saw this video on YouTube that was very, very informative. In fact, this professor you see on your screen is an Oxford University professor, and he actually shared some concerns about AI in the context of religion. He mentioned something that is happening in many churches, including the SDA church, that I want us to consider. So I don't want to talk much. Let's get into the video and listen to the interview. This is not the full interview. What I'm going to play is the vital part of the interview, which is found at the last section of the long video. And so if you would like to watch the full video, I will try and link it in the description for you. So let us listen to this part of the video, which is very crucial, very vital, and let's talk about it. Okay, so let's get into it without wasting any time.
No kidding. And it leads me to my next question, which is, this has been watching the LLMs in many ways become smarter than me. I mean, smarter than me, yes.
Yes.
It's been...
In certain respects.
In certain respects, thank you. But it's been dejecting. And it's made me ask, like, what does it mean to be a productive member of society? What does it mean to be a human being? And that's what I want to ask you about. How has watching what has unfolded over the last many years changed your conception of what it means to be a human?
Well, it's that question that got me into this whole field. I was asked some years ago to give a lecture on AI, an introduction to a conference of Christian leaders.
Okay.
And I said, I'm not an expert, get an expert. Or they say, you misunderstand. We want you to talk about what Genesis says about what it means to be human. And let that be the basis of our day's discussion. So I started preparing, and very rapidly I saw this is going to need a lot of work. I did the talk because I do have some ideas on Genesis, but that's what led to my first 2084. There are two 2084s, 4 years apart, one last year and one 2020. It's just going so fast. And it is that concerns people, the redefinition of humanity. Now, C.S. Lewis is one of the people that saw this very clearly. There are two books I say every believer ought to read. One is The Abolition of Man, and the other is That Hideous Strength, the third one of his science fiction books. And he saw presciently, in 1940, he saw where all this philosophy was leading, to human beings eventually producing not a human being, but an artifact. And he has this chilling sentence: the final triumph of humanity will be the abolition of man. Because what they produce is not a human, it's an artifact. They will have meddled with what we now call the germ stream of humanity and altered them. And therefore, it seems to me that it's very important to get back to Genesis and fill Christian minds full of the early chapters of Genesis, because from the point of view of our moral existence and status, Genesis 1:26 undergirds all of Western civilization. And we're still going on that capital.
And that's the idea of Imago Dei.
Yes, God made human beings in his image. He didn't make the stars in his image. They show his glory, but they're not in his image. That's a very different thing. You are more important than a star, actually. So that exploring that, Imago Dei, I think is a very, very important thing. But not exploring it in a vacuum, but exploring it in the context of these attempts, because many of the drivers of this superintelligence creating God are atheists. You can't help noticing that. And so it is an attack in that sense on God, his uniqueness, his creatorial dignity, his glory, and all of that. Of course it is. And what Scripture tells you from the beginning is that the biggest thing you're going to be up against is the original lie. You shall be as God if you deny God and his word. So we're back to where we started, the word-based universe. In Genesis 1, you have the word as the base of creation, and God said, and God said. But in Genesis 3, you have the denial of the word
By the snake.
by the snake as bringing catastrophe into the world. And it's the talking snake. It's amazing that people listen to talking snake. That suggested that you will rise, you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And the mistakes that are made about that. There's a famous snake path in UC, I think it's San Diego. I don't know whether you know about the snake path. It's a big snake which is in the form of a path, and it goes up the hill, and its mouth stops at the entrance to the university library.
Okay.
And there's a little Garden of Eden at the bottom, and the snake coils around it. And the whole idea is the humans are encouraged to leave innocence and get knowledge in the university library. And I was speaking there at the Veritas Forum, and I took a big risk. I said to them, I have never seen such a blatant misunderstanding of one of the most important messages in the world. Shocked silence. I said, this is the misunderstanding that God prevented them from eating a tree of knowledge of good and evil, and you've changed that to the tree of knowledge. It wasn't a tree of knowledge. There was lots of knowledge in the garden. In fact, science started there. God said, name the animals. It was full of knowledge. The tree of knowledge of good and evil, that's a knowledge you don't want. Well, I nearly caused a riot, I think. But anyway, it's very interesting because that's storytelling in terms of an artist's representation of this so-called snake path. And it's famous. You can look it up. And that's an example, to my mind, how art can lie powerfully and get across the exact opposite message from what the original was meant to convey.
Yeah. So I guess there's two things going on here. One is the building of AI, which we've spoken about. I'm curious to know, do you use AI? And if so, how do you think about this is how I would use it to think better, to write better, versus no, I think that the whole thing is like a demonic force and I'm going to keep that away from me?
Well, I've got a smartphone. And if you've got a smartphone, you can't help using AI. Because when you buy anything on Amazon, it's picking up the trail and it's suggesting new things to buy.
Right.
So you can virtually not avoid it. And if you use a computer that's connected to the internet and use Microsoft Word, you get all sorts of pop-ups that are explaining things and helping you. The days of not using it are long gone. But it can be a servant rather than a master. And that's the danger of it mastering you. Now, take ChatGPT. I find it quite useful for collecting ideas.
Sure.
Because it will bring to the screen knowledge that I don't have.
Yeah.
But it may be hallucinating and inventing that knowledge because it wants to please me. So I'm forced to do a lot of checking. But that's okay. I think that just as we look up Google, we don't know much about the Babylonian Empire, so we Google it, and nobody thinks twice about that.
Sure.
Even people who are a bit scared of AI. And in a sense, GPT is just a very sophisticated form of that is digested without permission often, a lot more literature. And I say to people, you can use it, but beware. Beware. For example, if you're a pastor of a church and you watch the late night film and then you get a sermon of ChatGPT in 30 seconds before you go to bed. That is not likely to have much spiritual power.
Some pastors, even SDA pastors, do it. They generate sermons from ChatGPT and other AI to preach on the Sabbath. And why do they do this? They get themselves busy with meetings here and there. Very busy. Having meeting all day, all night, and going for various programs so that they don't have time to sit and read and prepare their sermons, that they don't have time to receive their messages from God. So what do? They go to ChatGPT and generate sermons for the Sabbath. They go online on YouTube and search for sermons and copy sermons and preach. And we saw some just previously, I think last year, some pastors, top pastors, copying sermons verbatim from Sunday keeping pastors and preaching on the Sabbath. So I agree perfectly with what the professor actually said in the video. AI is a good tool. However, we need to be very careful of how we use AI, especially in the context of religion, especially in the church. Yes, so this goes to the pastors and also as members of the church. It goes to us all. And I understand that even prayers, some even generate prayers using AI, ChatGPT. What? What? Generating prayers using AI? You know yourself. You know yourself, friends. So we need to be very careful, yes, as to how we use AI in the church. It can be used in various ways, but to generate sermons, I don't agree with that. To generate prayers, I don't agree with that. Because AI is not the ultimate. We are spiritual people. We need to get our messages from God, from his inspired authors, So that is it, friends. That is it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about what the professor said concerning AI. So share your thoughts in the comment right now. Thanks for watching. See you again, and may God bless you.